In 24 hours, China will change the U.S. dollar forever. You will be able to tell your children how the U.S. dollar once held the world's top spot in terms of strength and how you witnessed its demise. You'll be able to explain to them that everything that happened was self-inflicted and that bullying, selfishness, and arrogance were the causes of the collapse. In today's video, we'll tell you how the U.S. dollar changes forever in less than 24 hours. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are the 5 members of the BRICS. To avoid using the U.S. dollar, one of the main goals is to establish their own money. Could this signal the start of the downfall of a powerful nation that has been lavished with blessings from God but has decided to reject Him? Does the U.S. dollar face any threats? Because of America's strong economy, democracy, and open regulatory structures, which gave the country the appearance of being a secure haven for foreign investors, the U.S. dollar eventually became the foundation of the world economy after World War II. But now proposals to create a new currency have been revealed by the BRICS nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They want to defend themselves from external pressure by reducing their reliance on the U.S. dollar and other Western currencies. In reality, Brazil and China have already agreed to forego using the dollar to pay for trade products, which is a significant step in Beijing's long-term intentions to make its own currency, the yuan, the dominant currency in the world. It is remarkable that many nations outside the BRICS nations are joining the push to stop using the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. Numerous African nations that the U.S. has unfairly sanctioned also demanded an end to the use of the U.S. dollar. It would be devastating for both the American and the world economies if nations stopped using the U.S. dollar as their reserve currency. A backlash against the currency is occurring. The dollar is regarded as the king of currencies by most people in the globe, yet its hegemony is currently in jeopardy. As more nations explore for alternatives, the Chinese yuan is clearly emerging as a rival. The most recent agreement Beijing is negotiating is with Brazil. The dollar is being abandoned by China and Brazil. They will start using their own currency going forward for trade. China therefore promotes the yuan. How does the Indian rupee fare? The Indian rupee is not far behind and is quickly becoming a major rival. And why do these trends matter? Because commerce is driven by currency. Because of the dominance of the dollar, the U.S. has a disproportionate impact on the world economy. Hence, a move away from the dollar would be detrimental to the U.S. Additionally, it will speed up the rebalancing of the world economy. In addition to having a negative effect on the global economy, this might cause geopolitical upheaval. Political leaders that made an effort to stop using the U.S. dollar in their transactions have historically paid a heavy price. The sole surviving U.S. superpower, the dollar, is losing its power. Approximately 60% of the value of all currencies in the world as of now is held by U.S. dollars. Although this tendency is shifting, the de-dollarization of the world is what some people are referring to. And it's certainly one of, if not the most significant financial developments taking place right now. The U.S. has greatly benefited from its position as the world's most powerful superpower since World War II, not only in terms of politics and the economy, where it has had the strongest GDP for decades and still does, but also in terms of its currency, the U.S. dollar. The world economy is addicted to the dollar, but now it wants to break this addiction. It won't happen quickly, but the dollar's demise has already started. One cannot but wonder how the U.S. got to the point where countries are not only rejecting the U.S. dollar, but also seeking partnerships with other heavyweights like China and Russia. You'll also be able to tell your children that you were present when they replaced the paper money and coins with digital dollars and coins from the United States. In less than 24 hours, the U.S. dollar will undergo a permanent alteration. Thus, you'll be right. The Federal Reserve starts to roll out its new central bank digital U.S. dollar in the first week of April. That is accurate. The United States will transition to a cashless society, a surveillance state where every transaction will be observed and recorded through a program called Fed, now that will eventually replace paper money. Although it won't happen immediately, it is trending in that way. However, according to the Fed, Funds in your account could potentially lose their value and become useless. Do you mean that? Yes. In the end, the Federal Reserve's campaign for digital currency will result in a society without cash, making it very difficult to buy or trade unless you have the mark of the beast for people. Your credit cards, bank accounts, and digital money will all be frozen. You can't buy or sell if you can't even satisfy your most basic necessities, like buying food for your family and yourself. Perilous times are upon us, but those who persevere will be preserved. Additionally, many American businesses have already stopped accepting cash. Although they may claim it is all about ease, in reality, it is all about control. When businesses and government can access all of your information, creating a digital money makes it simple to control you. You will be barred from conducting financial activities if you reject their order. Imagine living in a society where currency isn't accepted in grocery stores, pharmacies, or gas stations due to a cashless system, and where your access to the internet is limited because you haven't gotten the mark of the beast. Imagine being prevented from contacting your loved ones by phone, text, or social media because you won't submit to the one world spiritual leader. If you believe that these are only conspiracies, reconsider, because that is where we are going and we might arrive there sooner than you think. Russia occupied Crimea's territory in 2014 before annexing it. The next thing we'll do is examine what transpired. Then Russia was subjected to severe sanctions imposed by the United States and its allies in the West. The Russian ruble's value then declined. But then remarkable things started to happen, and this is possibly the moment when the US dollar starts to lose its value. Russia was compelled to increase output of almost everything they produce, including oil, lithium, silver, uranium, nuclear fuel, and natural gas, as the value of the ruble began to fall. They stepped up their game, became self-sufficient, and dominated the export of several of these minerals across the board. Would you like uranium for your nuclear reactors? You'll most likely be purchasing it from Russia. In actuality, the US today purchases almost all of its uranium from Russia. That's amusing, right? Their ruble was declining, so they took this action. In order to make up for the lower prices that oil was receiving in US dollars, they had to produce more oil in order to sell more of it. Under President Obama, the United States was killing its own manufacturing sector, while China and Russia were accomplishing the exact opposite. But because there was now a lot more oil being produced, which resulted in reduced oil prices, all this oil production ultimately put a great deal of pressure on the world oil market. And what the heck, a decrease in interest in U.S. currencies. The value of the petrodollar fell because they were producing too much oil. As a result, demand for U.S. dollars decreased as a result of U.S. sanctions against Russia. Then came the war in Ukraine, and even more ridiculous sanctions. This time they threw everything they had at the kitchen sink at Russia. Trade between Russia and the United States and its allies has been severely hampered by the sanctions. This has further resulted in slower economic development, a drop in the value of the US dollar, and a severe recession that is due to strike our shores, according to the Fed's estimate of negative GDP growth in the US. However, the opposite occurred in Russia. The Russian ruble has reached historic highs in value, and the IMF projects that the country's GDP will expand. However, this week, a bomb was detonated against the US dollar. Putin added in summarizing those discussions that we support using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and the nations of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Therefore, the second largest economy in the world and its top exporter of energy are working hard to undermine the dollar's position as the foundation of the global financial system. Early in the 1970s, the United States struck a contract with Saudi Arabia to price oil in US dollars, which led to the creation of the petrodollar system. This pact forced other nations to keep significant amounts of US dollars in order to buy oil from OPEC members, which naturally supports the demand for the dollar. It created the dominating currency in the world. America used it to bully the rest of the globe. It allowed America to accumulate enormous debt since there would always be a buyer for the U.S. debt. The United States has been employing sanctions and other economic pressure tactics to force other nations to support its foreign policy objectives by weaponizing its control over the currency. The ideal storm for the U.S. dollar is currently brewing in the U.S. China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia are abandoning the US dollar as a means of payment for oil. Additionally, the Federal Reserve has switched to a digital version of the US dollar that may be enlarged and printed at any time because it is not connected to any physical form of money, such as coins or dollars. America has also outsourced its manufacturing and the production of its minerals overseas. Countries are collaborating to oppose the US dollar. We all know that the BRICS, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are in the forefront of this. These are the world's largest rising economies, 41% of the world's population, 24% of the global GDP, and more than 16% of global trade are made up of the BRICS. Russia has proposed a unified currency because it believes the BRICS should do more. Russia's foreign minister made a statement in January, which served as the first warning sign. According to Sergei Lavrov, serious, self-respecting countries are well aware of what is at stake and wish to develop their own procedures to ensure sustainable growth. The latest calls for considering the necessity to develop our own currencies inside the BRICS framework are moving in this direction. Around 3 months have passed since then. The notion has now gaining momentum according to reports. They are working on a plan that will probably be discussed in August, where the BRICS summit will be held in South Africa. Russia is pushing for this for its own purposes. Western nations have sanctioned it. It has had restricted access to the world banking system. It is pushing for a new global reserve currency because it is unable to utilize the US dollar freely. And other BRICS participants appear receptive to the proposal. They seek to oppose the dollar's hegemony as well. How will that take place? The way forward was offered by a Russian legislator named Alexander Babakov. He serves as the State Duma's deputy chairman, which is the lower house of the Russian parliament. Here is what Babakov said. The first phase is the transfer to settlements in national currencies. The following goal is to introduce a fundamentally new form of currency into circulation in the near future, whether it be digital or in another format. Therefore, it is the way to go, and some of this is already taking place. Similar to how trade is settled in national currencies, India and Russia have a contract. The rupee-ruble trade mechanism is what it is known as. Rupees from India are used to purchase Russian goods, and vice versa. They accomplish this with the aid of unique Vostro accounts, and this has increased bilateral trade. Let us demonstrate some figures. India and Russia's commerce reached a milestone in 2022 when it reached a value of $30 billion. This is thought to be a record high. Of course, the increase was brought largely by oil purchases. But Russia expects more from India. It is counting on India to provide broader, more widespread support. Putin has actually announced his new foreign strategy. New instructions, or even a guidebook of sorts, have been produced in Moscow for Russian ambassadors. How does it portray India too? In order to strengthen and broaden cooperation in all areas on a mutually advantageous basis, Russia will continue to develop its uniquely privileged strategic partnership with the Republic of India. China holds similar expectations for Russia. Without support from China and India, the BRICS currency proposal will not succeed. Both of them must support Russia, and it won't be simple. Will China, which wants to replace the US dollar with the yuan, accept a BRICS currency? Would India wish to integrate economically with China, given the difficulties at the border in particular? These competing priorities are currently the major obstacles in the way of the BRICS. However, it doesn't change the reality that they are all prepared to abandon the dollar. Clearly, the dollar's hegemony is in jeopardy. That's all. Thank you for watching. And do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel and ring the bell icon to get more videos.